that kind of history, the fact that here was a community willing to save a relic of the segregation era rather than eliminate it or demolish it, caught the imagination of the news media. So the story was picked up by the New York Times, the San Francisco Chronicle, and other publications around the country. And we were well on our way. But the key to the whole thing was that even though that African-American side of the story was the most sensational, what really made the effort work in terms of getting the elected officials, and we have to give special credit to the late Art Teal, city commissioner, for taking the leadership on this once we brought it to his attention, was that coalition. When those commissioners, those 5 commissioners, who, you know, too few people making too many significant decisions for the whole population, going back to what you were saying about the Republic. When those 5 commissioners looked around the room and said, oh, well, this is not just a black thing, it's not just a tree hugger thing, it's not just an old lady's thing, it's not just, well, of course, you know, they did the usual thing. Well, we'll defer this to the next meeting. Maybe, you know, some people won't show up. Of course, the next meeting, there were even more people there. And once they saw the wisdom of saving this, that there was much more to be gained by the city, by the citizens, by honoring this landmark as both historical and environmental. And once they saw the political capital to be gained, it wasn't long before other elected officials at the state level, at the congressional level, Congresswoman Meek was extremely supportive and contributed, basically got the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers involved in some of the restoration. Once they got involved, we were well on our way. But what you get out of that whole lesson is that it started with the grassroots effort.
Yes.
It was so strong that the elected officials had to follow rather than be relied on to lead. And I think from that is, you know, as an anecdote, I think that's a model. Each case is going to be different, but I think that's one that we can learn from and follow.
Brilliant, brilliant, and thank you so much. So what I'm hearing is, first you have to have the information, you got to know what's at stake, you have to place value on that, then you make some phone calls to some people who have very close, like-minded interest, and then you build a coalition at the grassroots, then it goes to the political level, and then ultimately, what is the ultimate result that has come out of that coalition and that effort in relation to what you're trying to accomplish?
Well, the ultimate result is that a sacred site that had been neglected and left to, you know, what is it called? Demolition by neglect for 25 years is now restored, reopened, and being enjoyed every weekend by almost more people that can fit there.
Thank you.
And that is a perfect example of democracy in action, working from the ground up.
Thank you.
And I want to interject, and the other lesson is also that you didn't wait for the politicians, you know, the residents, they took the leadership. They get things done, they take the action, and they'll join us. So that's a very important lesson.
Yes, and please tell us how you are accomplishing what things you're accomplishing through Operation Green Leaves and the South Florida Community Partners.
Yes, I wear 2 hats. I'm the executive director of Operation Green Leaves, which is really an international environmental organization. I'll tell you in a few minutes how I got started. And also, I inherited the coordination of the South Florida Community Partners from my friend Audrey Peterman that moved to Atlanta ever since. So I'll talk about both groups, but first of all, how I got involved in this whole environmental movement. I have to go back to the history of it. I am from Haiti. I know you can see that by my accent. That doesn't go away. Although I left Haiti when I was like 8 and a half. And I never went back to Haiti until I was like maybe in my 20s. And just going back to Haiti and seeing the level of poverty that was happening there and the way they were living, I wanted to know what was going on. I did a lot of soul searching, investigating, talking to the people and see how they were living. So I lived in Florida, so I knew I had to come back. So So that was my first experience in organizing, because when I came back, I knew I wanted to take some action. I was not going to just close my eyes and say, I don't care, I don't live in Haiti, I live in Florida. I wanted to take some action. So that's my first organizing thing. I came back and started making a list of who really can help me do something about it. Although I don't live there, but you know, we're part of the global community. People don't understand how small the earth is. It's not like because they live over there we don't care, because we share the air we breathe and the earth and the wind. So we're really one. So my first organizing experience was getting all the people here, not only people from Haiti, but friends of Haiti, to organize the organization, which is Operation Green Leaves. And I knew at that time that what could I do? And I knew that once you address the environmental issues that were happening in Haiti, everything is interconnected, then everything will fall into place. And one thing also that inspired me is there was a video by Jacques Cousteau at that time, Haiti, Water of Sorrows. Sometimes your eyes just speak, and that was like in 1996, and he said if nothing was done about the environmental catastrophe happening in Haiti, by the turn of the century, Haiti would be a wasteland. You guys watch the news, you see what's happening. I think it's not too late, but at least I took action. So going back to what you're saying, you see the problem, sometimes it's very huge, but as residents and citizens, let's take the action, don't get, you know, the politician will just follow us. So that's how I started. Like, we came back and we organized Operation Green Leaves. It's been 19 years already. It seems like it was yesterday. And the way we function, we also partner with other groups. So in Haiti, we empower the people, because sometimes they're living in abject poverty. So we encourage them to get organized. Of course, we give them the support necessary, the technical support, such as a lot of the issues are environmental issues, such as, you know, Haiti's middle of a mountain, so their community, there's no trees when it rains, you know, you get what floods and all that stuff. So we get them to organize. Right now, I'm proud to say we have almost 25 organizations in Haiti. And after 19 years, I'm very, very happy to say that you can see the empowerment is working. They're taking action of their own. So we're still there to support them, but they're taking the action. So that's some of the, like I said, like you would say, information. Sometimes people, they want to do something, but they don't have the accurate information. You're talking about the Republic. Yes, those people in these communities that we're talking about, they are struggling every day to, am I going to make it to the next day? So they don't have that information. So it is up to us that probably have a better social level to go back and give them the information they need to take their lives to the next level. So that's some of the organizing that I, you know, the aspect of Haiti. But I came back here, and here I do a lot of work also, the same things that we do. Our main thing is reforestation, because reforestation address is a big issue in Haiti. But when we came back here, education, information is the key. If you give them the information, the actual knowledge, they can take the right decision on their day-to-day life that affects their lives. But people have to make the connection between the welfare of the environment and their world and their health. So throughout the years, that's what I've been teaching people and inspiring people to know that it's all connected, we're all one. So with that, over here, my other hat is the South Florida Community Partners, which Audrey was one of the founding partners. And we were called the Miami Community Partners, and we got organized. And I think we have many members here. Gentini was one of the founding members, all the way like that. And Gwen is here. Where's your hand, Gwen? Antonia's here. Hi.
Alan is here.
Alan is here. Alan from the National Park Service. Yes, Alan is here. So we have some of our members on here, but we got together, and the thing is to increase the diversity in the national parks, because like Audrey was saying, when Frank and Audrey went the first time, there was no people of color in the national parks. So the mission of our group is to encourage people of color and that struggle every day. They're not thinking about the environment. They're not going to visit the national park. Although I think when they visit the parks and nature, it just relaxes you. It's probably going to be good for the health, but to get them involved in the national park. So people don't know. Organizing is get people to take their life into their own hands, their future. But they can't do it without the information. So it's our responsibility that we know better. We've been blessed with, you know, with another social level. So it is up to us to go back and provide the information that they need to rise up from where they are.
Excellent. And in the context of Everglades restoration, all of us who are here today are at that level where we have the intellectual capital and perhaps a better economic level. Certainly, everyone in here, I'm certain, can call up your state elected official and get an appointment with their office. You know, whereas probably somebody that Germany knows, who is working as a migrant worker over there in the Everglades, does not necessarily have the courage or the wherewithal to do that. But since, as we're saying, it's one environment, and since what we're talking about is the restoration of the Everglades ecosystem, which stretches 16 counties from Orlando down to Key West, you understand that everything in between is part of that totality. So, Jermaine? Yes.
Well, I'm not a member of any particular organization. I'm from the Glades, and it's made up of 3 small towns, and so I look at the combination of those 3 towns as my organization. And so not being a member of any particular organization has its pros and its cons, but mostly pros. And so I work on behalf of the entire Glades region. And my outreach strategy is more divine design than my design, because I take a lot of non-traditional approaches to outreach. I'm a graphic designer, and since the 8th grade I've been cutting hair, and my sister made a reference to the barber shop earlier, being like a therapeutic place for black people. And so being, starting out, I was cutting hair so young, a lot of people came through to get their hair cut, and we just started talking about different things. And in 1996 is when I had a transformation of my mindset. And from that point on, I've been a fighter for justice. I'm a babe when it comes to environmental justice per se. And so I have a lot to learn, but ever since 96, I committed myself to fighting injustice in all different arenas. Some of the things I do as far as outreach strategies is very simple. Life for me is very simple. Door to door. I don't have a car, so in my community I have to walk where I go, and that provides the perfect opportunity for me to touch bases with people on a very intimate level, because we can kind of get comfortable in the trappings of the world. When you have a car, hit the horn and you keep going, but I'm able to touch palms with people, and I'm able to look people in their faces and discuss issues on an intimate level. And I do a lot of writing, and that's why I say my outreach strategies are about divine design, because my ability to communicate is not necessarily something that I can take credit for. And so I write, I cut hair, I make music. Some of you guys may follow me when I say this, but I did an album with a friend of mine, hip hop, and it's called Dirty Hands, Clean Face. And what we mean by that is we get our hands dirty, and we're willing to go out there and till the soil, and get our fingernails dirty, and roll up our sleeves and meet with people. But at the same time, we're not disrespecting people while doing it, and that way we keep our face clean. Dirty hands, clean face. And so recently I just delved into movie production, where we go out and young people are drawn to the camera, and they're drawn to studios and doing music. And so we use those as opportunities to engage the youth. And so, any particular issue that we feel is important, I try to use music, movie production, as well as just door-to-door, hand-to-hand opportunities to share that message, share that information, and invite people to come out and be a part of whatever we deem necessary to get the point across. And recently we just started painting some elders' houses, and I'm using middle school students to come and share those experiences on camera. And if not for the camera, they might not even be willing to go paint. But just the thought that they maybe get a DVD of themselves afterwards, they showing up, hoping that they can become a star. So, traditional and non-traditional approaches, man. You gotta think outside the box in the 21st century. So.
Fascinating, fascinating. And
Audrey, if I may, I just want to add to what Nadine was sharing about the community partners.
Yes.
Our mission was, as you've heard, to increase diversity in the national parks, but that was at all levels. We were talking about diversity in visitorship, in employment, in decision making, and in that all-important area of interpretation what the story is that gets told to the visitors of what makes these places